Hello, good evening. Warm welcome to Prime Business with me, Pius Kojo Baka. Straight up, barring any unanticipated shocks, inflation is projected to gradually trend downwards but remain above the upper band of 8% plus or minus 2 until the end of 2025. That's according to the May 2023 Monetary Policy Report by the Bank of Ghana.
The report risks to the inflation outlook are fairly tilted to the downside, supported by the relative stability in the exchange rate, reduction in ex-palm petroleum prices, alongside base drift effects. This could mute the upward adjustment in administrative prices. Given these considerations, the Monetary Policy Committee decided to maintain the monetary policy rate at 29.5% in May. Headline inflation had already declined significantly by 12.9% between December 2022 and April 2023. However, it surged slightly to 42.2% in May. But the Bank of Ghana believes its latest forecast suggests a disinflationary path on the horizon, supported by the monetary policy tightening, relatively exchange rate stability, and some favorable base drift effects.
Meanwhile, Ghana's economy beat most analysts' forecasts, expanding by 4.2% in the first quarter of this year. Well, this is compared with the 3.1% recorded during the same period last year. Here is more from this report. According to figures from the Ghana Statistical Service, the services sector recorded the highest growth of 10.1%, followed by the agricultural sector with a growth rate of 4.8%, and industry contracting by 3.2%. Here is government statistician Professor Samuel Kobnenim.
Industry sector contracted by 3.2% in the first quarter of 2023. Comparing this to the average growth rate since the first quarter of 2014, we saw that the services sector, in terms of current terms, that is its growth rate in the first quarter of 2023 is about twice the average over the same period. The average for the period quarter 1 2014 to quarter 1 2023 was 4.8 compared to 10.1 that has been recorded for the first quarter of 2023. From the agriculture sector perspective, we see a variation of 0.2 percentage points as the average for the period quarter 1 2014 to quarter 1 2023 stood at 4.6% relative to 4.8 only for the first quarter of 2023, indicating a percentage point difference of 0.2%.
But what is accounting for the consistent contraction of the industry sector? Here is Professor Kobnenim once again.
The water and sewage subsector, which contracted by 6.4% in the first quarter of 2023, is for the fourth consecutive time seeing a contraction in water and sewage. From the second quarter of 2022, water and sewage has contracted, and it saw its worst contraction in the last quarter of 2022 with a contraction of 13.4%. This contraction has been slowed down, although we're still recording a contraction in the first quarter of 2023. It slowed down to 6.4% for the period January to March 2023.
4.2 growth rate represents the fastest pace of economic growth for Ghana since the second quarter of 2022. It is also the 10th consecutive quarter of economic growth recorded by the country. A while longer on the GDP figures, the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry has expressed optimism the industry will bounce back in the next quarter of the year if urgent steps are taken to address the structural challenges facing the sector. Well, the Chamber's comment follows the negative 3.2% contraction recorded for the first quarter, contributing the least to the overall growth rate of the economy of 4.2%. Now, speaking to Joy Business, Chief Executive Officer of the Chamber, Mark Bedu Abuaji, appealed to government to review some policies placed on industry sector to propel growth.
Manufacturing is the key to drive our economy. It's the key to make this economy resilient and take up from IMF. So whatever we have to do to ensure that we create the right environment, we have to do it. And these taxes and other things are not the way out. I think we should go back to the drawing board. And this report is giving us a clear indication of where our economy is, and it shows how weak our economy is, and any other shock will be detrimental to us. So for me, I'm very much concerned. We have growth, fine, but we need to ask the critical question of where the growth is coming from and whether this growth is sustainable into the future. In the next quarter, for me, I would have loved that we turn the negatives into positive. but I think it's going to be extremely difficult looking at the kind of negative we have and the kind of things that have happened within this short period with the IMF coming in. The increase in utility tariffs would definitely affect the manufacturing sector. And then the taxes, the excise duty, and the proof and service levy will also affect the manufacturing sector. So I'm worried, but I'm still hopeful that something better will come out of it. That is what we want. We all want. We don't want this contraction into the future. It's not good for us. Hopefully, there may be some positives in next month.
And government ended first quarter of this year failing to hit its total revenue and grants target. This was captured in the new Bank of Ghana data covering the government's fiscal operations in the first 3 months of this year. George Yafe has the rest of the story.
The report showed that from January to March this year, total revenue and grants stood at 26 billion Ghana cedis against 34 billion Ghana cedis that was programmed by the Finance Ministry. When it came to expenditure, government spent 33 billion Ghana cedis. However, this was lower than the 52 billion Ghana cedis that it was hoping to spend at the end of March this year. Despite recording an expenditure that was lower than what has been programmed, it still ended the first quarter of this year spending 7 billion Ghana cedis more than revenue mobilized. It is not clear for now whether the challenges in getting the required revenue for the first quarter of this year forced government to cut expenditure for the first 3 months of 2023. According to the Bank of Ghana, the Finance Ministry is planning to finance the deficit of the domestic market by raising the required taxes and issuing treasury bills. However, some analysts are worried that if this trend should continue for the next half of this year, that would not be good for government when it comes to financing its operations for the rest of this year, and how this will impact on the budget deficit and even the total debt stock by the end of this year.
Away from revenue, let's talk cocoa this time round. And stakeholders in the cocoa industry are calling for restructuring of legislations and tax regulations in the sector. According to them, these restrictions are affecting farmers' income and hampering the sector's potential for sustainable growth and equitable development. Co-convener for the Ghana Civil Society Cocoa Platform, Obed Owusu-Adai, says the phenomenon has forced many cocoa farmers to lease their lands to illegal miners.
Major issues is about cocoa price and how much goes to the cocoa farmer. Currently, per the PPRC's regulation, the cocoa farmer is to get about not less than 70% of the FOB price. And people usually don't know what goes into determining the FOB price.
Educate us.
so when there is an international market price, let's say right now it's doing a bit well, it's about over $3,000 per ton. But before they set the market price for the cocoa farmer, there are deductions that are made by Cocoa Board. Cocoa Board does spraying, mass spraying, distribution of fertilizer, and other costs that is associated to their production. They deduct all these things from it, and then they also deduct the LBC margins, those who go to the countryside to bring the cocoa beans. They pay them from it. So the money that is left, that is what they share between the cocoa farmer and government. And per the statistics, the farmer gets between 68 to 72% of that. The question we should be asking ourselves is, the other part that goes to the cocoa board, what happens to that money? 70%, averagely 70% of the FOB price goes to the farmer, and 30%. So on that 30%, there is import taxes and all those taxes that government takes from the farmer. We don't particularly have a problem with the tax, but what do we do with the taxes that we take? Every year, Cocoa Board goes to the money market to borrow, to buy cocoa beans. But for a very long time, we've been taxing the cocoa farmer to the extent that right now, the Ghanaian cocoa farmer is poor, and Ghana cocoa farmer is only getting 800 cedis per bag. Go to our neighbors. Ivory Coast, the average cocoa farmer is getting about 1,500 cedis equivalent per bag. In Togo, they are doing around 1,350 Ghana cedis equivalent. So you realize that the Ghana cocoa farmer is poor, and he's poor because there is a lot of taxes that the Cocoa Board is taking from them. There are all these projects and programs Cocoa Board is running with the taxes they take from cocoa that The IMF report is saying that they should even get themselves out of it. Cocoa roasts and other things that they are doing, which they are taxing the cocoa farmer to fund. And we are saying that the cocoa farmer needs to be able to benefit from cocoa that he is farming. Right. And although we understand that it's a national commodity, people need to benefit from it. But the most important person is the cocoa farmer. He needs to benefit.
And that's why the farmers are more likely to smuggle their products, their produce, to other countries or give up their farms for illegal mining, right?
Exactly. And early this year, that problem came up. There were a lot of cocoa beans that were intercepted in the Togo border and then in the Ivorian border. Ghanaians are taking their beans to Ivory Coast and to Togo. If the price on the local market is not good, that is market forces. They will find a way to smuggle it outside. And we just came from the Western region where farmers are giving their lands to illegal miners. Luckily for us, we went to the executive...
Very serious.
Yeah, we went to the executive director of the Ghana Cocoa Initiative, and he saw it firsthand. And we spoke with farmers. They are giving their lands to illegal miners.
Still watching Prime Business. More after this short break. Hello, welcome back. The Chief Executive of Agro Kings Limited, an agricultural organization, Nana Owusu, is urging young entrepreneurs to bring out solutions that address critical issues when venturing into entrepreneurship. According to him, this is necessary to ensure the sustainability of their businesses. He was speaking at a seminar organized by the University of Ghana College of Education as part of their 75th anniversary celebration.
The University of Ghana College of Education organized a seminar to equip students and graduates with necessary skills and knowledge to navigate the job market and create employable opportunities for themselves. The seminar was held under the theme Building Resilience and Embracing Technology. In an interview, Chief Executive of Agro Kings Limited, Nana Owusu Echao, advised graduates to set up businesses that meet demands in society.
One of the things I've recognized happens a lot in this country is we raise a lot of need-based entrepreneurs. So people who become entrepreneurs because they've identified that they really need money or because they didn't get a job, so then they go into entrepreneurship. But what I'm trying to encourage most of these graduates to do is go into opportunity-based entrepreneurship, which is when you identify an opportunity in the market, when you identify a particular need that you can meet, you go ahead and do what it takes to actually be able to meet it. Now, that in itself is what sustains the business. So most of us are not dependent on what we can do, but our clients kind of drive what we end up doing. So our rice business has not grown necessarily because of how well we are able to market, as much as it is the fact that there's a demand for rice. And there's a lot of rice that is currently imported. And so if we're able to produce our own, we will be able to sell that rice. And it doesn't apply just to agriculture. So for instance, most of the cars in the country are probably more than $10,000 worth. However, we do not have graduates who are mechanics. Now, this is a major challenge because then you've made an investment sometimes of $50,000, $100,000, $20,000, and you put it in the hands of someone who can't even write shocks without making a spelling mistake, or write rear view mirror without making spelling mistakes. So you realize that the opportunities in the country are many, they are vast, they are endless. And so if you identify a need or you identify a pain point most Ghanaians go through, you are happy to be able to solve that problem, and those clients will then continue to build and sustain their business.
Dean of the School of Education and Leadership, Professor Gordon Adika, added that a critical way to address graduate unemployment is to intensify deliberations between graduates and industry.
Some people lament at every opportunity they get to say that universities are not preparing graduates for the job market. And I believe that is based on their experience with engaging with some fresh graduates in the world of work. While their concerns may have some legitimacy, we should all bear in mind that universities equip holders of bachelor's degrees with the knowledge and skills that make them function as generalists in a wide array of job spaces. With this understanding, what we should intensify are the interactions between industry and academia. That way, industrial skills requirements can drive aspects of university learning. The synergy will lead to positive outcomes.
The students were urged to leverage technology and gain skills to develop their ventures.
Now, stakeholders in the environment and sustainability sector have called on government to employ technological solutions to mitigate the effects of climate change on Ghana's agricultural produce or face a situation of dire food shortage in the coming years. Speaking at the BFT Environmental Sustainability Summit, lecturer at the University of Energy and Natural Resources, Dr. Caleb Mensah said tech-based solutions will boost the output of yields. Here's more from the summit.
The effect of climate change on agriculture poses a serious risk to food security. According to a World Bank report on climate change, the net revenue loss to the agricultural sector could be as much as $133 billion, which accounts for about 4.7% of Africa's total GDP by 2030. Based on this, the Environmental Sustainability Summit was created to deliberate on key actions that will ensure a sustainable environment and prefer technological solutions to mitigate the effect of climate change. Speaking at this year's summit, which focused on sustainable agriculture and resilient agri-food systems, lecturer at the University of Energy and Natural Resources, Dr. Caleb Mensah, explained the need to employ technology in fighting climate change.
In precision farming, you need to collect data. That's where artificial intelligence systems could be employed here. The use of drones, the use of this big data, that's the remote sensed data, that's the geospatial data. At least it's able to give a very wide coverage over the farms, and we are able to know whereby the impacts are very severe, and even how we are able to use some of these fertilizers where we are supposed to use the amount. All of these, with the use of these innovations in precision farming, we're able to determine that, because at least the farmer is able to make well-informed decisions. He just doesn't go to the farm and start applying fertilizers. At least with the use of these drones, he's able to even identify within the farm which part is maybe lacking some kind of nutrients, and he needs to also go in there to help.
Head of Training and Education at the General Workers and Agricultural Union of Ghana, Emilia Ganza, called on government to improve education on climate change to farmers.
We have the policies, the implementation, and then the people to work. Ministry of Food and Agriculture does not have the agriculture agents, extension officers, to help the farmers. They are very few. So they should employ more people to go out there to help the farmers. And then there should be sensitization. Like we said, if we take 12 people, it's about only 2 who know what is happening and what climate change is about. Even though they feel it and then they know that things have changed, the weather has changed, rainfall patterns have changed, they don't even attribute it to climate change.
The BFT Environmental and Sustainability Summit was held on the theme Climate Change and its Impact on Food Systems and Sustainable Environment.
Thanks so much for watching Prime Business with me, Pius Kujubaka. You can always get business stories when you log on to myjoyonline.com/business. Prime Sports is next, but we'll leave you with some entertainment.